Hi friends. This is my first podcast from the Quimby Cottage to talk to you about what I've been knitting. I don't know how this is going to work. I do have a microphone on. Hopefully that can dull some of the outside noises, but I do have a busy road, just a few cottages down right here. There's some kind of construction going on in the neighborhood, and all of my family is home, so we might hear sounds from them coming from that way. So I just thought I would give it a try. It's been a long time since we've been together, and I just want to catch you up on what I've been working on. And I want to know what you guys are doing. I'm going to start by telling you what I'm wearing. This is my Stonecrop top. It is made of linen. I have a project page for it, which I'll link below, as I always do. And if you want to see me, you can look at my summer sweater parade and see all the summer sweaters that I've made. This is a favorite. I like it. I wear it a lot. It has this nice roll neck collar. And a few years ago, I saw a top like this for sale at Talbot's. So I feel like this is a pretty classic look. I'll stand up so you can see it again. So here it is. I like it. It's really easy, very simple. It would be a really good first sweater if you wanted to make one, because the sweaters are it's just two pieces. You seam them together, and then you pick up and knit 8 rows for the sleeves. The 2 pieces are pretty simple to make. There's a lot of stockinette in it, and then there's a little bit of shaping here and then at the bottom and on the back as well. So it's a really good sweater if you wanted to make it. I am wearing a sports bra because it's summer, and that's how we do it here. But normally my regular bra doesn't show. But if you were bothered by that, you could just snug this up a little bit. I actually like the way the collar rolls, so I left it this way. So let's talk about what I finished. Finally, I did finish my broken seed stitch socks, but I gave them to a friend. And when she comes up to visit me in September here at the cottage, I will take some pictures of her wearing them, hopefully, and share that with you at that time. But I did want to tell you that I finally finished my Stash Dive Raglan by Summer Lee Knits, and I love it. I love it. I love that it incorporates Brooklyn tweed shelter in the hayloft color, along with just a bunch of stash yarn that were scraps. And so you just kind of work it in. Every so often I see an end that I didn't pull through, which I have to do there, but that's on me. It's not the pattern. I love it. I did have some trouble with this. I don't know if I think it's because it's a pretty easy sweater, and I get super cocky and I feel like I know what I'm doing. I did have, this part here went really quickly, except I wanted to do the split hem. And when you do that, you can't carry the yarn in the back as neatly, I think, as you can if you do it in the round. So that's not quite so neat. You see, like, there's kind of threads hanging back there in the ribbing. I just didn't know how to do that in a really neat way. But I don't care because it's the inside and it's fine. And I wanted the split hem. I don't know why, but I did. So I followed the pattern. I did the wide neck. I did the full 7 inches of collar. I love the way it fits. I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. It's super cozy. Brooklyn tweed yarn is sometimes a little bit stiff, maybe when you knit it, or maybe a little kind of crunchy feeling. But once you block it, it blooms beautifully, and it's a really nice fabric. I wanted this to be cozy, and it is. So let me try it on for you. Okay, so here it is in all its glory. I didn't do any shaping on it because I wanted it to be an oversized sweatshirt feeling type sweater. I love the wide neck. I really want to incorporate this. I want another one of these, but maybe not so colorful. But I love the neck, and it's very cozy. I deliberately made the sleeves long because I wanted the coziness. I wanted to be able to do that, or fold them up if I wanted to be able to do that. So I wanted the choice of that. I modified a couple of things. The first thing was the split hem, which I did. The second thing was I did a tubular cast on here. I did a tubular cast on the sleeves, and I did a tubular cast off here. And then I added 3 sets of short rows to the back just to raise the back a little bit higher, just because it would be easier for me to tell them what's the front and what's the back. I'm really happy with the way this turned out. It's exactly what I wanted. It's super cozy. It's super warm. I imagine myself wearing this in the summertime. Rather, that's not true. I imagine myself wearing this more in the fall. Throwing it over top of my pajamas and wearing it on the porch in the morning when I have coffee, because it does get cool here. We've already started to see a couple of cool mornings, not too much. We still have to sleep with fans and things like that because I'm one of those ladies who gets hot in the night. But I don't like to be uncomfortable, so therefore I need the wool too. So I imagine myself wearing it then. I can see myself wearing this when I'm doing my fall cleanup in the garden. That's why I chose a sturdy fabric. I also have already used this just to throw it on over top of something lightweight. In fact, I think it was this same outfit. In fact, a week or two ago, we had a cool evening and we went down to see the sunset. The breeze had kicked up off the lake, and I threw this on, and it was just perfect. And actually, none of the ends were woven in at that time. And I still have one end I need to cut. I don't cut my ends until I block, and I've noticed I have one end in the back here that needs to be cut in the collar. And then also, I didn't cut my ends really short in this because there's so many ends, and I'm afraid that if I cut them, they might pop through and then I'll be pulling them. I do occasionally see one that I have to pull through when I pick it up. I love this sweater, but it took me a really long time to knit. The sleeves took forever. For some reason, I do need to cut that. For some reason, the sleeves were too wide. I wasn't getting gauge, and so in the end I did start the sleeves. I didn't do the increases the same rate that she wanted me to because it was just too wide down here. So I did incorporate those increases. I just did them at a greater rate up the sleeves. I also wasn't reading the pattern, which is typical for me. I get a little cocky sometimes, and I thought I was supposed to have 88 stitches at the end, and I wasn't. It was too many, so I had to rip back and redo the sleeves. So it took a really long time to do the sleeves, but once I had the sleeves done and joined it all in the body, it just came right together. And I can't tell you how much I love this neckline. I love that it's warm, but it doesn't choke in any way. I think it's flattering. I'm melting. I did get a little lazy, and you'll see the top part of the body is a little more stripy once I join them in the sleeves than it is like in the sleeves where I did just little blips of color. But I was more eager to get it done. I don't think it's super obvious when you look at it. And the goal of this always was for it to be something super casual, practical, something useful, and it didn't necessarily have to be beautiful, although I do love the beauty of it. I loved that I was able to get rid of a lot of partial balls of sock yarn. I have a really hard time, as you know, throwing away my scraps. So I like to use those up as much as I can. So I was really pleased. I'm very, very pleased with this. I hope to make another one. Just seeing how much I use this one. Again, initially I planned to leave it here at the cottage, but it seems so cozy that I feel like it might be a thing that I reach for at home. So I am going to take it home, and we'll see how much use I get over the winter. But I know I'm going to use it a lot in the fall here. We plan to stay here until at least the middle of October, and it does get quite cool here even by then. And sometimes there's even snow, and we do have heat, but we don't have insulation. So it's nice to have something cozy like this. It does warm up in the middle of the day in October, but by the end of October, it's cold all the time, and I have to wear a hat inside, and that's when I know it's time to go home, wherever my winter home is. So I love this. I highly recommend the process. I highly recommend the finished product. I highly recommend the satisfaction of getting rid of scraps. I mean, in all ways, I think this is great. And this designer, Summerlee Knits, has a new sock pattern out, which I bought, but haven't done anything with yet. But I'm excited to knit that too. So that'll be really fun. So I finished my Sash Dive Raglan. Love, already, love. The next thing that I did, because I am getting a little bit of satisfaction from knitting stash, and I didn't bring a lot of stash with me up here this summer. I I brought the Stash Dive Raglan and the yarns that go with that. I had a pair of socks going, which I finished, and I talked about that. And then I had a single ball. I can't remember why I bought this ball of yarn, but I had a single ball of Barocco Ultra Wool, which is a nice washable wool. It's affordable, practical for like kid knits or, you know, a hat or something that you are going to gift. It would be good for charity knitting, I think. But I oddly had one ball of white. I don't know what I was going to do with that. But anyway, I decided to knit my secret little crop top. This is not for me. I know it does stretch. I mean, it stretches an incredible amount. Like, look, it stretches. But this is actually for my daughter's college roommate because she's super cute and her name is Lizzie. And I think this is the kind of thing that she would like. Now, what I did was I cast it on a couple of different times. I just used the German twisted cast on. I cast it on a couple different times. I didn't remember that I thought I was making the size small. When I went to do cast off all of these stitches, I realized I had actually cast on for the medium. So this is kind of a mix between the small and medium. Her size was slightly bigger than the small, slightly smaller than the medium. In the pattern, it tells you to size down. I think I wasn't sure about doing that because I didn't want it to stretch so much that it would be sheer. It is white. And I don't know. I have a modesty thing. It's me. I know it's me, but there you go. So I did follow the measurements of the small, but I cast on for the medium. So there you go. Ultimately, I was getting really nervous about the yarn. So what I did was I weighed my ball of yarn just before I cast this off and I had 27 grams. My goal in my head had been that I figured this part and the straps would take about 30% of the yarn, or maybe, so there's 100 grams. I figured 30 grams would be enough. But by the time I measured, I was already to 27 grams. So I just didn't want to rip. I just went ahead and cast off then. When I finished this part, I was seriously sweating because I did not think I had enough for the straps. What I did was I cast both straps and knit them both at the same time so that they would be exactly the same size in case I had to modify by using, I do have some white, this is a worsted weight yarn. I have some white fingering weight that I could carry double if I needed to, but thank the Lord, I think I had 2 inches of yarn left over after I was done doing these. And I tried the Kitchener, but I didn't like the way it looked and I felt that the firmness of a 3-needle bind off was probably better back here, so I did that. I wished I could have made the straps crisscross because I personally like a crisscrossy strap. I don't like to be fuddling with things all the time. But unfortunately, I had just enough to make the straight strap, so that's what she's getting. I was going to mail it to her, but the girls are moving into college pretty soon, so this is just going to be hand delivered. So one more thing done, and I'm using it my stash. Now, I shared my stash I think in my last podcast, so you know I don't have a lot of stash, but even still, it does seem that I should be using that up, so that's the goal. The other thing I've been working on, just quick stash busting, is these little grandma's knitted dishcloths. They're super simple. I finished this one the other day when I went to go get my hair done. I cast on 4. I knit 2, yarn over, knit to the end, turn it around, knit 2, yarn over, carry to the end, knit to the end rather, until I get 40 stitches. I like a dishcloth, or this is actually could be a face cloth because this is a Rowan cotton. It's super soft, so you could use this on your face. I like them to be about the size of my hand. And when this gets wet and blocks, it'll stretch a bit more too. But as you can see, it's about the size of my hand. And I like it that way, personally. So for me, that is 40 stitches on a size 7 needle. So when I get to 40, then I do the decreases. The decrease is knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 together, knit 2 together, knit to the end, turn around, knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 together, knit 2 together, knit to the end. When I'm done with that, I do a picot bind off. So I cast on 2 and I bind off 4, and I just pick up 2 more stitches from the edge when I'm done. So This is one. And usually if I do 40 stitches, I can get 2 of these dishcloths out of one ball. So I have another one started right here. And when I tell you that I cast on 2 and then I bind off 2, I cast on just by doing the overhand loop, the backwards loop. So the thread is behind my thumb and then I carry it around to the front. So it looks like that. And then I just put it on the needle and let it go. This is not a good bind off or a good cast on. It's not stable. It's really stretchy, as you can see. It's too stretchy in most cases. Or for the bind off, it's perfect. So I bind off those 2. And then what I do is I just pick up this bump here and bind it off. And then I'll pick up this bump here and bind it off. And that is how I get this little edge. If you don't want that edge, you certainly don't have to do that. But I just think it dresses it up just a little bit. And I like things to be just a tiny bit fussy. Doesn't it just look a little bit more decorative? Just a little bit more. So that's what I like. It is a little fussy. It does take a little bit more time. I timed myself, I think, around Christmas time last year, and it takes me 2 hours to knit this, including that picot edge, but it is a little bit fuzzy. Conversely, you can knit the whole thing and then go pick up all those bumps at one time and then bind them all off as you go, which you can do too, but that one I didn't do it that way, and I don't know what I'll do with this one yet, but there you go. So that's just how I do it. I don't really have any great plans for these, but I did throw a couple of balls of this cotton yarn into my bag to come up north, and I thought I would just knit it up. It's nice to have them on hand. They make great gifts, and if the girls want them for school, they can take them. I'm not attached to them necessarily. So I have that nice persimmon orange color, and then I also have this sort of pale pink color. I sort of think this isn't really appropriate for a kitchen color, but what am I going to do with it? So again, these could also be face cloths. So maybe this little pink one will stay in the kitchen. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I just want to knit it up, and then I'll have a little stash of them. So that maybe it will be a nice little face cloth. You could give that with it'd be a nice gift with a good face wash for somebody. I think that would be nice. So maybe I'll just leave it as a little face cloth. And then it's definitely important that it has a little picot. So there's that. So those are my work in progress. I also want to talk to you a little bit about some aspirational knitting, or what's next on my needles. I want to knit the Skiff Hat. Sabine, my younger daughter, she has a friend who we've watched grow up, and I'm very charmed by. When he discovered that we had been knitting for the college roommates and not him, and we've known him longer, he got a little fussy. So he asked for a hat. And his mother knits, but has oddly never knit him a hat. And he's kind of a fussy guy, so I'm going to go ahead and knit him something that is a hand wash. He's the kind of person that takes care of that. I bought this Lucky Tweed yarn by Kelborn Woolens. I really want to try it. The color, I love this green. Don't you love this green? So I kind of want to try this as the hat, and I'll see if I like the yarn. But I feel like this would make a really good sweater. I love the tweediness of it. You see all the colors that are in it? I just really like it, and it's pretty woolly feeling, so I like that. And I'll be starting that today. It's a tubular cast on, and I have the long tail tubular cast on by Isolde Teague. I have that memorized, and I can do that at any time. But I really want to, I know how to do the Brooklyn Tweed cast on, where you cast on half the stitches with waste yarn and then you pick up. I've done it before, but not enough that I have it memorized. I usually just default to the Isolde Teague one. So I thought I would go ahead and take the time and do the new skill, which isn't really new to me. I've done it before, but I don't have it memorized. So I'm going to go ahead and try that. And also that cast on is a 2x2, and I need a little help on my 2x2 tubular cast ons. They end up a little tight when I do it the long tail way. So I think that it will be helpful to follow the actual directions and do the pattern that way. So I'm going to do that. Another thing I wanted to talk about is yarn. I saw on Instagram a couple of weeks ago now. I just don't keep up with things in the summer. I'm sorry, friends. There's outside to enjoy and nature and neighbors to visit. And Now I have to pause and braid Sabine's hair, so I'll be right back. And that, friends, is why I don't podcast in the summer. Because after I braided Sabine's hair so she could go to work as a hostess at a restaurant, I had to print some things off for Mr. Hansen, which weren't done the way he wanted them done. And then we ran out of ink, so I had to order more. And now I'm available to sit and talk to you. So that's why I don't podcast in the summer. Seems like it's just really hard to get it done. I don't know how people with kids do it. Not just kids, families too. So I don't know. Maybe you're better at boundaries than I am. I'm clearly terrible at boundaries. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, we were talking about yarn. I don't really follow a lot of things on Instagram in the summertime, but I did see that some people were talking about yarn costs, and that is something that is a concern for me as well. My husband's been unemployed for almost 2 years, and so we do have to be a bit judicious about our choices. And while I really think of knitting as something that is necessary in my life, I also recognize that there are ways to do it more on a budget than I have concerned myself with in the past. So to that end, I have decided I want to knit the Magnolia Chunky cardigan because my wardrobe really needs a couple of more cardigans. I've looked carefully at my wardrobe. I'm trying to think really hard about what I actually need and what I want to knit, and trying to see if I can dovetail those a little closer together. And when I say what I need, I mean what would be the best for my wardrobe. I feel like a couple of cardigans that I can throw over things and that maybe would feel a little bit cozy, and that I could also easily take off without undressing myself entirely, because I am getting to that age where sometimes I'm a little bit warm and sometimes I'm not. I really want that Magnolia cardigan, and ideally I would love to make it in that gold La Bien-Aimée DK weight yarn carried with the mohair. That would just be really beautiful. But number one, I don't need any more luxury cardigans, luxury sweaters of any kind at the moment. I do have several beautiful luxury type sweaters that are along the line of cashmere, or that kind of level of softness, or that level of niceness. And with the pandemic being what it is, and our work situation being what it is, the best thing for me is really just like practical, cozy, but not necessarily so soft that I need to be careful with it. I need more sturdy sweaters. So I really want that Magnolia sweater. I really want it in that gold color, but I don't think that's going to work for me. So I just ordered, it's not here yet, I literally just decided to do it today, but I found the Eco Wool Cascade Eco, ECO, Cascade Eco, in the straw colorway, which I think is the closest to what I'm looking for. So I bought some of those, and I'm going to attempt the Magnolia cardigan. So that's going to be my next thing, and we'll talk about it more when the yarn gets here and when I cast on and swatch and all of that stuff. But I do think it's important to remember that not everybody has the means to knit luxury yarn. But if we do have the means, that's great, and I'm all over it. I still shop at local yarn stores, and I do my best to make sure that the money goes to a local place. I have worked in local yarn shops, and they have provided me with everything that I need, support, community. But I also think it's important for us to remember that not everybody has the means to knit, but knitters still have to knit. So if you are a knitter who needs to knit with acrylic or what have you, you go for it. If you need to knit with budget yarn, you go for it, because knitters need to knit, and we're working on things as we knit. Knitting is an active meditation, so it's good for us. And then at the end of that, we can have a thing that is wonderful and lovely and useful. And when we knit for other people, it's a blessing for them. Every inch of the yarn goes over your finger, and you have knit it into a blessing. So that's where I stand on that. I say knit with what you can afford, whatever that is. Even if you just have to make plastic bags into yarn, which I think they call plarn, and knit more grocery sacks out of that. Although these days we don't need any more grocery sacks. We are not allowed to use our reusable grocery sacks. these days. So that's all the knitting that I've done. That's all the knitting in my head that I've done. I spent a lot of time researching yarn. The other yarn that I considered rather than the Eco Wool was Plymouth Homestead. I knit a sweater out of that last year as a gift, and I loved it. I think it's a really nice yarn. I got a heathered colorway, which I loved. And they have a heathered green that is a really nice green. It reminds me a lot of this color. And now, of course, as I'm talking to you, I realize, like, I don't know if you can tell, the ceiling of the porch is light green. This is green. This is green. But in my head, that Magnolia cardigan for me always needed to be that gold color. I couldn't let go of it. I did do a little research on Ravelry. I looked up yarn, knit, and other things that were cabled and things like that. And I really felt like that green was just a little bit too dark. I probably am going to knit myself another cardigan. I'm thinking of that Felix cardigan by Amy Christoffers. I think Amy Christoffers knit that. I think I'm going to knit that in maybe the Plymouth Homestead. I'm not sure because that's fine green, but the Magnolia with the lace and the bobbles, and some of them have knitted bobble buttons, which I loved. I really, really, really wanted mine to be in gold. Like, just in my head, I couldn't see it any other color. And the Plymouth Homestead did not have a yellow for that, or a good color that I liked for that anyway. So anyway, that's where I'm going with my imaginary knitting. I have done a little bit of sewing. When the pandemic first started, I sewed a few masks. And the first one that I made was the Byron Handmade. It ties in the back. It's open at the bottom. It's actually really nice if you're going to be outside and you have to wear a mask for a long time. I like it a lot. It doesn't take any elastic, which was pretty important at the beginning. It was really hard to find elastic, so this was good. I liked it. I like it. It was a free pattern, which was really nice of her to offer it. And this is actually a favorite mask at our house. I've kind of wondered before if I could make something similar to this and just add elastic at the sides here. But in the end, I made about a dozen of these and really liked them. I used Mr. Hansen's old dress shirts to line them, and I was really pleased with the way that these turned out. More interruptions, but it's fine. Then I made some of these. This pattern came from a friend who is making them, and I lined this with the little X's and O's because I just want my people to know that I love them when they're not here. The Byron Handmade masks I made because in the beginning I knew that we were going to need some. I made about a dozen of them between us and the girls, and that was fine. Plus the girls wear a lot of disposable masks because of their jobs. So that has been fine for us. And we have a few others kind of floating around. Those have been fine for us. But the girls are going back to school, and I really thought that they needed to have about a dozen masks apiece. I read that we need to be washing our masks the same amount as we wash our underwear, which is daily. So I wanted to make sure that they had enough to do that. So I decided to make more masks. So we have the Byron Handmaids, which will stay home. Mr. and I will use them. We don't go out very often, and sometimes we're outside, and so those will be fine. But the girls are going to take these to school, and they fit fine. They fit, like so. Now that I look at that one, it's a little surreal to look at it like this, isn't it? So anyway, I made that mask. Then I made these masks. I made a few of these, and I really like these. These are actually my favorite, I think, of all of them. These are the Japanese masks. I'll put a link to them. I really like them. There's many different sizes. This is the teen adult size. It doesn't really fit Mr. very well. Go figure. He needs probably the one that's 2 sizes bigger, and he doesn't seem to like these ones, so we'll see. I might have to go make a couple more for him, but I'll show you how it looks. So it's adjustable by the length of elastic. I can't tell you where I got the elastic from. A friend of mine bought like 100 yards of it, and she gave me half because I love her. So I made some masks. So I've been doing a little bit of sewing. So I've decided to make some dust bags for my shoes. I've discovered that I really like that style of organizing. And it's especially good for here. We leave the windows open a lot when we don't get a lot of rain. A lot of dust blows in from the fans and the windows. we don't have air conditioning here. Anyway, I decided to sew some drawstring bags. They would make great project bags, just easy, simple. They're not the ones that, I mean, these are literally just drawstring bags with a single lining. You could make them fancy if you wanted to, but I'm using them as shoe bags. However, look at how cute is this fabric with the little bird on it. Since I am sewing, I decided to learn a new thing. So I found a YouTube video for making French seam, and that's where you encase the raw edges inside the seam. And I just think it looks so nice and clean, and it's just nice to learn something new. And it kind of is counterintuitive because you first sew it together, right sides together, and then you open it up and you encase the seam like so, and then you open it up again. There's a lot of ironing in this style. And then you could press and then sew this down for a nice neat edge, but I'm not going to do that because these are dust bags for my shoes. But anyway, I've done a couple already. I'm really pleased with the way they turned out, and then these are kind of mid-sew. I sort of ran out of steam the other day when I had the sewing machine out, so I put it away for a couple days, and I'll get it back out in a little bit. But I've enjoyed not so much the process of sewing, but I've enjoyed the products that I can sew. Just to tell you a little bit about what's been going on here. And then we had some big storms blow through here. I don't know if you saw on Instagram, I did post. We lost 4 trees on our property, and miraculously, none of them fell on our house. And this tiny little shack of a house. It was so exciting. I forgot to tell you one more thing. I broke my reading glasses, and they just broke right off at the hinge, so there's no fixing them. But I got new ones, and these are called peepers. I love them. Look at, I love them. These also have like a blue light for computer working. Not that I do a lot of that, but it is good. It's good to have it. I will tell you that my daughter says that, I'm sorry, it's quirky old lady about 10 years too early. What are you gonna do? Anyway, I love these, and they have the blue light on them. These are +2s because that's who I am now. I think that's all I want to tell you.